house and ballroom scene is a underground or a subculture of the larger LGBT community. It is an autonomous art collective of people who use performance art to express themselves. And so houses are groups or organizations of people that take on a familiar structure of support, and they meet, they practice, they dine together, they wine together. They're literally like a family, and in most cases are the only family that some people have. House and ball culture, well, houses compete at balls. These are the competitions that the performance art takes place over. Dozens of categories happen at a ball where people compete for cash prizes, for trophies, and really for acclaim within our scene. Yeah, the house and ballroom scene culturally was created as a space, as a safe space for people to be who they are. In the 20s and 30s, during the Harlem Renaissance, when black and brown people, black and brown queer people didn't have any other place to go, they created house and ballroom, right? It was called Harlem Drag Ball then, but in the 60s it turned into house and ballroom. And so it was literally created on the principle of one expressing one's true self and being who they are and showing up very authentically in the world. So in ballroom and in the ballroom community, there's like two levels. And so there's the mainstream scene, which I would compare to varsity, if you play sports or familiar with sports. And then there's the kiki scene, which is the youth-led movement, which is like junior varsity. And so in the kiki scene, I'm an icon. Actually, I just got deemed last week. And so I've created houses, I have thrown huge balls, done it all. So and yes, I was a mother, founding mother of my house. I used to dance when I was in high school, and one of the only openly gay people in my high school also danced at my dance studio. And back then, in my hometown, we used to have model troupes. Did like runway competitions, so I was already doing that was separate from the house and ballroom scene. And this particular person, Shushu, my friend, Miss Rahi from Virginia, he used to vogue in our dance classes or in between dance classes, and I didn't know what that was. So I started like researching and looking things up, and then maybe a month or two after we officially met, he like took me to a ball, and that's when I started walking. And we live in a country where historically, over 400 years ago, people of color were not human, right? And enslaved and treated less than human. And systems have been created and put into place where those things may be less obvious now, but racism is still very real in this country. In fact, a few weeks ago, I was arrested almost for no reason and spent 19 hours in jail for a police officer who didn't send me a quota. And so racism is still very real here. And the fact that we have to have a Black Lives Matter movement for people to understand that our lives matter is problematic. And it comes from institutional oppression. The house and ballroom scene was created because there was no safe space for black and brown people in Harlem to live as their true selves. And so it was in direct response to heterosexism and homophobia and transphobia from the Black church. And it's lasted and self-sustained